Trouble. This is nothing but trouble. I should close the blinds. Instead, I watch Melody and her friend run across the street, unable to take my eyes off my boss's little sister. With her thick blonde hair and curves for days, she's always beautiful. But in that dress, Jesus, that dress. Don't think about it, I mutter beneath my breath, crossing to the door to flip the sign from open to closed. It's nearly midnight. Any customers who show up in the next 20 minutes will probably be drunk anyway, and I won't have time to draw anything up, let alone finish a piece. Better to close up and head for home before I give in to the urge to follow Melody into the Horse and Rider and offer to buy her a drink. I can imagine how that would play out. I'd buy her a beer and apologize for being an asshole. She'd forgive me because she's a forgiving person. And we'd spend the rest of the night getting tipsy enough for me to forget all the reasons I shouldn't get close to her. Close enough to brush her honeysuckle-scented hair over her shoulder, to gaze deep into those soulful brown eyes, to feel every tempting curve pressed against me until... Stop! I reprimand myself in a louder, firmer voice. I'm pretty sure Melody's interested in being more than friends. But I'm not. I can't afford to be. Stop what? Who are you talking to, man? John's voice drifts from the door at the back of the shop behind the heavy curtain. Seconds later, John, in his typical uniform of faded jeans and a threadbare t-shirt with an obscure band logo on the front, eases into the main portion of the shop. He still hasn't shaved the mangy beard he's been growing for the past 3 days, and I'm not sure he ever brushes his curly reddish-brown hair. Still, John has a lovable, ruddy-cheeked Irish guy thing going, and women can't seem to get enough of him. His nonchalant grooming habits would make me feel ridiculous about spending 15 minutes on my hair every morning if I didn't have a special, loving relationship with my hair that is immune to ridicule or shame. No one. What's up, brother? I turn to greet him with a high five that turns into a hand clasp, relieved not to be alone with my thoughts anymore. John is one of my oldest friends. We grew up drawing comics and naked elf girls together in our notebooks, and have dreamed of opening our own tattoo studio since we were 17. We lost touch for a little while after high school, but picked up right where we left off when I moved home from Atlanta. John had also recently moved back home from North Carolina, where he'd been apprenticing with another tattoo artist, and had just signed the lease on the shop. We'd gone for a beer or two. About 3 in, he confessed he was worried about carrying the lease on his own. Within an hour, we decided to join forces and open N&J's Tattoo Emporium. We figured Emporium sounded more civilized than parlor, and that the more civilized we sounded, the better. In a small, sleepy bedroom town like Bliss River, a tattoo shop is going to have to keep it classy if it wants to survive. I came to check the supplies before I called it a night. John slaps me on the back before moving toward his station on the opposite side of the room. I'm heading to Atlanta tomorrow. You need anything? Gloves, ink? No, I'm good. I ordered gloves online and I'm set for ink. I do all the shopping I can online. I hate going to the tattoo supply store in Atlanta. The chances are too good that I'll run into Wyatt or Nelson, fellow tattoo artists and my old roommates, the ones who kicked me out of our shared apartment when I was drunk and disorderly for a few too many weeks in a row after the last sweet Southern girl I dated dumped me to go back to her ex-boyfriend. Sarah Beth. Just thinking her name is enough to make my jaw clench. I knew we were wrong for each other from the start. I'm a night owl. Sarah Beth gets up at 5:30 every morning to Zumba. I haven't darkened a church door since I was 18. Sarah's in a pew every time her church opens its doors. My idea of a good time is a day of rock climbing followed by beers at a bar where they play the music too loud. Sarah Beth enjoys antiquing and wine tasting. I knew better, but I let Sarah Beth convince me that our differences didn't matter, that a mutual love of kettle chips and being naked together was enough to start something real. I let my guard down and started to enjoy Sunday afternoons at the park with Sarah and her roommates, rainy mornings lying in bed watching movies before I went to work and she went to class, and coming back to her place and eating supper at a decent hour for the first time since I left my mom and dad's place years ago. Sarah Beth took care of me. She brought me some much-needed stability to my life and made me wonder if I might be the settling down type after all. 6 months in, I'd asked her to be exclusive, and she'd agreed. 2 days later, we got in a fight about whether there was room for my favorite chair in her living room, and she dumped me to get back together with her ex, a loser she'd known since high school who was already developing a middle-aged paunch at the age of 21. I know that for a fact. I stalked Trevor on social media for an entire drunken evening, verifying he was the human personification of soggy Wonder Bread. I was dumped for a cheesy-looking bastard with a gut and thinning brown hair who wore pleated khaki pants. Pleated. What's worse, I was jealous of that guy. Jealous of a douchebag named Trevor. The shame of it still makes my gut feel full of acid even 2 months later. I'm over Sarah Beth. Turns out I loved how easy it was to be with her more than I loved Sarah herself. But I'm not over the sting of rejection. I've never been rejected before, and it's safe to say I'm not a fan. That's why from here on out I'm sticking with safe girls. Wild, fun-loving, free-spirited girls who couldn't care less if I ever settled down. Those girls know how to keep things light and simple. Those girls never make you wake up in the morning and feel like someone is punching you in the gut from the inside.